I got my notes. I got myself. Hi everyone! So I know I talked about how I wanted to make a culture shock video about things that were very different and strange at first when I moved here. Overall, I don't think I had a really bad culture shock. It was very different, and I keep saying everything is different because everything is different. So I made a little list about the things that I remember that were strange or I wasn't used to it. So I have a list of 7 things that were very different when I first moved to the United States. So one of the biggest things, everyone is so friendly. Wherever you go, whenever you meet people, they're going to ask you, how are you? That is a very friendly and polite way to say hello. So when someone says, how are you? You say, I'm fine, and you? Then they say they're fine or good or whatever they say, and that's it. Really, how are you is just a way to say hello, and it really threw me off guard a lot of times at first, and it took me a while to get used to just saying, I'm good, how are you? So now I do say it automatically, but at first I didn't say anything. Even though I knew that I was supposed to say, I'm good, thanks. It just didn't come out. So overall, people here are very friendly, and they're going to come up and talk to you. It can be a complete stranger, and it's not considered strange. Also, you can go ahead and talk to anyone. Whereas in Finland, you don't talk to people you don't know. That's just how it is. You just don't do that at all. You don't talk to random people in the store. In Finland, I would never go ahead and ask another customer about a product. I don't know why I remember this, but I think it was last summer I went to a grocery store to buy watermelon, and I have no clue how to tell if a watermelon is good or bad. So I was just looking at different watermelons. I was kind of knocking on them, trying to feel them. I didn't know what I was doing. So there was a lady next to me, and she was also looking at the watermelons, and I just looked at her and the watermelons, and I just said, I have no clue how to tell which one is good and which one is not. And the lady just laughed oh, I don't know either. And eventually I just picked one. But I was talking to this random lady that I have never ever seen before in my life, and who I've never seen before after that. Really, you would never ever do that in Finland. If you talk to a random person you don't know, they're probably not gonna talk back to you. They're just gonna look at you strange and walk away. Personally, I think it's really cool how you can just talk to anyone you want and it's not considered weird. It really makes me happy that people are so nice to you. So number 2 is when you go into a restaurant and you get a meal, the meal sizes are huge. There is no way you can finish that, especially in some places. It just, you get a bunch of food. I don't eat that much, so I'm always taking it with me, bringing it home and eating it for the next week or something. But also another thing about restaurants, here you have to tip the waiter. The waiters get most of their pay from tips. So usually when you get the bill and you look at it, then you have to add tip. You can, if you pay with your card, you get a bill that has 2 lines, and then you write down the tip, how much tip you want to give them, and then the overall sum. Or if you want to leave them cash, you just leave it on the table when you leave. So that is something to get used to and something you have to remember. You do want to help that waiter to earn money so they can buy food and stuff. So you really do want to leave that tip. At least I do. Usually you leave a tip that is 15% of the overall cost of your meal. But if you want to be really nice, or if you think the service was really good, then you can leave 20%. Or if you think the service was really bad, then you give 10%. I give 15% because, well, I want them to be able to live. So usually you want to have $1 bills in your wallet or just change, but I don't think it's very nice to leave change. But sometimes if you don't have dollar bills, you might just, I've done that before, but I think it is slightly rude. I don't know. So the next thing is sales tax. Whenever you go to a store and you look at the price tag, that is not the actual cost of the product. When you go to the cashier and they ring them up, after that sum, they will add a sales tax into all those products. So you have to remember that you're actually paying a little bit more than what is on the price tag. Especially when I was a kid in Finland, I would go to a store, buy candy, and I would be calculating the cost to get exactly to 5 euros or something. So I would have exactly the money that I want to spend. But here you can't do that. You always have to add a little bit more to that. So I think the reason for that is because a sales tax is a little different in all states. Here in North Carolina, it's, I actually don't know, I should look this up. Pretty sure it's under 10%, it's probably 6-7%. But sales tax. This website says that the sales tax in North Carolina is 4.75%. So it's not a whole lot of money, but still it might add up, especially if you're buying something really, really expensive, adds a little bit to the price. So that's something to remember. So another thing is that in Europe they use the metric system. That is what I grew up with. That is what I'm used to. But here they use completely different units of measurement. Completely different, and they make no sense. You just gotta memorize it. A few days ago, someone actually asked on my ask.fm account, yes I have one, go check it out and go ask me questions. So on my... Hey, what was I saying? Someone asked me on my Ask account about if I've got used to Fahrenheit or if I still convert everything to Celsius. I answered yes, I am used to Fahrenheit. I know 32 is 0 degrees in Celsius, 68 is 20 degrees in Celsius, 104 is 40 degrees in Celsius, so I can kinda guess everything based on those three measurements, and then if it's like 25 degrees outside, I can just say, oh, it's around 75 over 75 maybe. So I can kinda guess what it is, and so based on that. So however, with other measurements, we have inches, feet, miles. It's a mess. So basically I know like an inch is 2.54 centimeters. I don't know why I remember this exactly. For feet, I know a foot is less than a meter. And a mile is 2 point something kilometers. I don't really know. So I'm a little clueless with those. I remember in driver's ed, I would be driving with the teacher next to me, and she would say, oh, put your blinker on 100 feet before you turn. And I just looked at her. I don't know how far 100 feet is. I don't know how far that is. Actually, it wasn't my driving test. The person who was testing me in the car, I was doing the little route that we have to do for a driving test when we get our license. We were going 45 miles per hour, and she told me when you're going 45 miles per hour, you have to put your blinker on 500 feet before you turn. I'm not sure how, I can't remember exactly how far it was. I just said to her, oh, I've never heard of that before. And also, I don't know how far away that is. So she told me, okay, now is a good time. And I was like, thank you. She was really nice, so I passed. I got my license. The fifth thing is that you always have to be politically correct. And there are people who have very, very opposing views. You always have to be a little careful about what you say. Especially in school, you can't talk about everything. Like, one of the things you can't talk about in school is religion. Your teacher cannot talk to you about religion. I remember we were going over the evolution in biology class, and our teacher had to give us like a little disclaimer about, okay, I'm not trying to push this view on you. This is just a theory. I don't think you need to change your beliefs on how the world began because of this theory. So religion is one of the very touchy-feely subjects that you want to be careful about what you say. So the same thing goes for things like abortion, same-sex marriage, politics. Yeah. So the sixth thing is there's no public transportation. Or actually, technically there are buses here in Charlotte. Like, they don't go anywhere near you. So they're not really that useful. You go to a big city like New York City, there's gonna be like subway and everything. That's different. But when you're here, like in Charlotte and in a lot of US cities, if you don't have a car, there's no way for you to move around unless you're gonna walk. So it is... Oh, my leg fell asleep. Ow, ow, ow. So that was a big thing for me, because in Finland, I'm used to just being able to walk somewhere or take my bike, or if it was further away, I would just hop on a bus and go. And then I would get there. But here, that's not really possible. So here you are very, very dependent on having a car. If you don't have a car, well, you better know someone who does have a car. I really hated it, how dependent I was on my parents. I would always have to ask them to take me to places to pick me up, and I couldn't go anywhere by myself. Thankfully, I got my license and a car, so freedom. Here, having a car, especially for a teenager, having a car is everything. It means so much freedom. You have so much freedom when you get a car. So the last thing is, the most obvious one, I guess, is the language. So obviously you speak English here, and you speak American English, by the way. In Europe, you speak all these different languages. In Finland, you speak Finnish. So obviously I did learn English in school, so it wasn't completely a new thing for me. And my English was pretty good when I actually first came here. But it was hard. I personally didn't realize how hard it was back then, but now looking back, I realized I was having a really hard time. It is very, very exhausting to suddenly go to school in a completely different language, having to process and learn everything in a different language. So those were the 7 things that were very, very different when I moved here to the United States. So like I said, I don't think I had a huge culture shock when I first moved. There were a lot of things that I had to get used to, school being one of them, but I think that's gonna be its own video because, you know. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask me or any topics you would like me to talk about in a video, please comment them below, or you can go to my Ask account and ask me questions over there. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye!